did I mention that Larry Kerman is an Irish Echo columnist as well? We love him. We love him to bits. I want to thank the Irish American writers and artists who are also sponsors of the Campfire. Our next little group has been waiting for some time, but it's important we say a word or two about Pete Hamill, because Pete Hamill, as far as I'm concerned, Pete Hamill was a Belfast writer. His parents were hurt out of Belfast in the 1920s. He had the values of his parents in all his writing. He was known as the bard of the five boroughs. His A Drinking Life is the greatest ever Irish-American memoir. And of course, he wrote a plethora of novels and other books, and the greatest guide in New York is Downtown My Manhattan. He came here in 2003, Pete. He spoke at Fella and Football, and we had a wonderful, emotional moment where he read in the upper lounge in the Rock Bar. He read the section from A Drinking Life, which is set in the upper lounge in the Rock Bar the night that JFK was shot dead. I mention all that not just to express our condolences to the wider Irish-American writing family, but especially to express our condolences and solidarity with his baby brother Dennis, himself a great writer, screenwriter, a journalist, a columnist, who we asked him would he do this big Irish Echo Campfire appointment before the death of Pete, and we want to express our condolences today, and we thank him for being with us today. So Dennis, thank you very much. We're going to hand over now to two great Belfast ambassadors. We're tremendously proud of both of them. Geraldine Hughes from the Rocky movies, from Gran Torino, who sold out the Lyric Theatre last year with Belfast Blues when we had a Lyric Theatre you could go to, who, when she comes back, is a great supporter of integrated education and of all the positive activity in the working class communities across the city. So we're delighted that Jordan's with us. Of course, Terry George, who is from Shortstrand, the Market, Twinbrook, West Belfast, many parts of Belfast, and what a huge name right across the entire movie business, for Hotel Rwanda, for In the Name of the Father, for The Promise, but especially for The Shore, which won an Oscar. Everybody I know got a part in The Shore except me. Despite that, we forgive him. When he went back to Belfast, he goes right back into those communities to help them to build, to push forward. So I want to hand over to one of my great heroes, Geraldine Hughes of New York, for a Campfire Chat. Thank you, Geraldine. And she's muted. So how do we on?
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yeah.
I can hear you, Jordan.
All right. Yes. It helps if I unmute myself. It always helps to press unmute.
I must say, Martin has never known how to mute himself, so it's not a problem for him ever.
This is the Belfast way. Let's begin with the insults and end with the insults. Ending with insults is definitely the way to go. He gives as good as he gets. I know that anyway. Where are both of you today?
I'm in Queens.
I'm in Long Island.
Queens, Long Island. I'm in upstate New York.
Good.
Yeah.
So with the tornado?
Yeah, we had a crazy time here last night. We were not in the eye of the tornado, but we certainly got a lot of action because of it. But the sun is shining today, and feel very grateful to be up here. So, yeah. You know, I don't know if you're all zoomed out, but I feel very zoomed out these days with everything that's going on. But it's nice to see you both. And I suppose I've been sort of put in charge with beginning this conversation about film and what we do in this life as entertainers and how we're going to move forward. I don't know if you guys are working on anything that's sort of in production or being filmed or about to be filmed, but I know for me, I feel very anxious about going back to work. So I'm in the middle of doing a television series in New Orleans, and we have 6 weeks left of filming, and we had to shut down on March 13th. And it's like, how do we go back? You know, do you know productions that are going back, and how are we going to do this safely?
Well, the one I work for is ready to start shooting in 2 weeks. We're going into prep next week.
Really?
Yeah, it's Law and Order, Special Victims Unit.
I know. I have been on that, Dennis. Yes, a few times.
Yeah. And so we're starting shooting in the middle of, I had second week of September, but we started prepping next week. So, and we've elongated the prep and shoot times because of the COVID. There's all kinds of protocols that have been instituted that have changed the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
One of them is that writers won't be on set. The writers will not be on set this season. They had to limit the number of people that could actually be on a film set.
Right.
And as you know, they also limits the crowd scenes and casting. I mean, they're not going to fly someone in from Los Angeles to quarantine them for 2 weeks for a couple of scenes. So a lot of the Broadway actors that are out of work because the theaters are dark will probably get Law and Order work.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure it's the same in LA. They're not going to be flying New York actors out there, I'm sure. So,
I have heard of some actors who are being flown. For example, like I think I have to go back to work in October. So, we're going to have a big meeting next week with producers and cast about, how that's going to happen. Do we go there and quarantine for 2 weeks and then stay in a bubble? And then what happens when there's a big, for example, there's a lot of courtroom scenes in Law and Order, and my show has a big bunch of courtroom scenes. So I have a lot of questions about how to handle that and air filtration and protection and all that stuff,
Well, we have our own studio, so, they can limit it and they can space people out. I have a feeling there'll be a lot of judges' chambers scenes.
Yeah.
Or sidebars at the bench,
Yeah, exactly. How things are written. Are writers going to adapt and make like scenes a lot smaller, 1 or 2 people instead of, a cast?
Yes, we are. Doing exteriors in the city is going to be really tough, and they haven't worked that out yet. But yeah, crowd scenes and even scenes where there's people assaulted and things like that are going to have to be, creatively done.
Right.
I'm not on that side of the camera, so I'm in the writer's room, so we try to do as much as we can in there, and then it passes on.
I think the thing about all of this is, obviously we're all waiting for a vaccine, that we hope will liberate us or get back to some sort of normality. But and each of us are concerned, on the writer side of it. I've just been Zooming with people and pretty much in isolation for 6 months. Mm-hmm. But in terms of everyone else that are, the diaspora who are watching this, the most important thing for me is how do we preserve cinema and theater? Because, if there's one place you don't want to be at the minute, it's in a dark room with 300 people coughing and spluttering for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that applies to cinema, and it applies to theater, and obviously cinema and television are being superseded by streaming. But how do we preserve theater in this atmosphere? And even with a vaccine,
I don't know. It's a really scary situation. I was just in the city recently, and I took a drive through Times Square because it was the fastest way to get where I was going. Because there was no traffic. When is that ever a reality? And the overwhelming sense of sadness that I had, not only just that the theaters were dark, but everything that has affected in the city. And, tourism,
like ghost town.
Everything's the heartbeat of the city. And Terry, that is a frightening thought. I don't know, when do we get back to that?
Well, we're going to have to actively encourage people to support those mediums, because theater will die, and certainly independent cinema will die. It's interesting listening to you both, because you're both involved in essentially studio productions at the minute. Yeah. NBC and I'm not sure what, but independent cinema is now in an existential crisis. No one is willing to put up money for small films where they have no outlet, and basically their only potential chance of making, not even making money, getting any money back, is to do some sort of cheap fire sale deal with either Amazon or Netflix.
That's right.
I think, or people who love cinema, who love that sense of being in a dark room in a communion with everyone else as you watch this piece of art, that's going to be lost to us forever. And I mean, and Dennis, just thinking of Pete and his love of cinema, and your mom used to work in.
My mom was a movie house cashier. I mean,
exactly, yeah.
And that's how we all got to see the movies for free. So and four or five of us went into the business, and so thanks to my mom. But that's going to be so changed. I mean, I don't.
We have
last place I want to be right now.
We actively have to encourage people that it's almost a civic duty to go to the cinema now for where, and what's going to happen is like what's happening next week. The studios are going to bring out a blockbuster movie, and they're literally putting it on every screen in the multiplexes. It'll be in 10 screens, and that's it. Where does Il Postino or My Left go in this situation? And how do we encourage people to come back to that, to support cinema? That for me is a crusade that
I don't know how many of the art houses will even reopen, Terry.
Yeah, I'm on the board of two, one in Key West and another in Flint, Michigan, and they haven't figured. They literally figure that by April they'll have run out of money and closed down. And these are not-for-profit support, community supported. We could lose. There's a funny. This is analogous to this. When I went home to Northern Ireland, to Ardglass, to my house 4 years ago, I noticed something was missing, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I was there. Something's missing, and I discovered that the British government, while I was away, had decided that they no longer needed foghorns on lighthouses because of GPS. And so they closed down and banned all the foghorns at lighthouses. And a sound that had become the definition of my childhood was gone forever.
Yeah.
That was wiped out by a government decision. And we're literally talking about the same thing here. I think cinema is at the moment where vaudeville was in the 20s. Mm-hmm. If we don't, if it isn't encouraged, if we can't get our audiences, particularly with small films, and most Irish films are small films. There's no,
sure.
Okay, all right. We did Game of Thrones, great, but the Room and My Left Foot, and they're all small independent films, and they won't exist, and therefore part of our language that was so influential in the last few decades will be removed from us. So people have to understand even when a vaccine comes out, because I think we can, we'll have watched everything on Netflix and Apple Plus and Amazon. People have to actively go to the cinema in order to keep this alive. That's the kind of
well, here to that. And I do have great hope, because I feel like, the way that Broadway will come back, the way that theater will come back, I think as human beings, as mammals, we're social. We need to socialize. We want to be together. And I think the idea of being in the same room, especially in the theater, and that will come back when we can safely come back. When going to a play doesn't mean you're going to get sick and die, which is basically the reality of life, at the minute. But I do feel like these big, like Avenger movies and these giant films, they'll get, people will want to see those on the big screen. But I agree with you, Terry, in that, like I have a couple of scripts at the minute as well, which one is an Irish script. And it's like, someone said to me the other day, well, instead of trying to look for the money, why don't we just sell to Netflix? And I was like, no. I mean, yes, but wait a minute, it's a strange thing, and I don't know what's going to happen to the art houses. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it would be incredible to be part of a movement to get people back in to sit together, because there's nothing like that. You know, that sense of community. It's like dinner and a movie.
I agree with you. I come out of the newspaper business, and what's happened to the newspaper business because of the internet, which is different. But the internet on top of the pandemic on top of that, the New York Daily News, where I worked for 25 years, is no longer going to have a city room. The reporters are going to report in from home for the there's no city room where people have to get together. It's just amazing to me. It's astonishing. So I think that they're predicting that the pandemic will probably last until the end of 2021, and hopefully there's enough of us that are still of a certain age that can remember how wonderful the art house is, that will still keep those places alive. I would hope so.
But one of the things we're also losing, Dennis, in that, particularly with newsrooms and even writing rooms, there's a language of diplomacy, a language of interacting with people who are not of your opinion.
Yeah.
A community that now, as we sit home and reinforce our own opinions on Twitter and whatever websites we pick, that sense of community, whether it be, going to the theater and supporting a play that challenges you, or in a newsroom with competing points of view, where you actually have to socialize and be friendly and become friends with people of an opposite opinion. Yeah, that we've got to actively fight against this the isolationism, really, what it is. And Geraldine, as far as Netflix goes with independent film, and I know this from experience, they're basically going to put whatever your script is through some algorithm are not holograms. What do you call them?
Algorithms.
The algorithm. They have an algorithm that tells them how much profit they're going to make and how much, the least amount that they can pay you, and that's what you're going to get. We're dealing with like a vast multinational corporation now that's basically out to skin you. So that becomes the only vehicle for small independent, even and especially for foreign language, where they just buy up, at the cheapest price possible, everything they can and throw it on till Netflix in order that they have, a vast amount of titles to show.
Yeah, just content.
It's an existential threat.
And I think it's interesting. We're talking about the same need, right, to be together. I mean, especially as artists, whether it's over a pint or a cup of tea or in the writer's room or, flushing out ideas. And this is the only way we've been able to connect. I mean, we're in an unprecedented time here in terms of what's happened to the world, and it's shifting. But also we're talking about shifting technology as well, because technology is an incredible thing, right? So it is an incredible thing that, I don't know whether you agree or not, but whether we'll have self-driving cars, and we've got a lot of, solar powered things and all of that stuff. But the art of storytelling with human beings in a theater. And I don't know if we can get to the point where we can save these art houses. Maybe we can save some of them. But my heart is like, we have to save the theater. And as a person in New York and very attached to New York, Broadway has to come back, and it will come back. But Terry, it is a massive question about how on earth we would find the money to make and distribute art house films, and who's going to come see them, and how much you can charge for the tickets, and blah blah, and how you and pay the rent. It's just a bit sort of depressing. What I'm trying to do is create while we're in this, and try and get something made. And I don't want to do a Zoom film. I want to be together with people on a set and tell a story that way,
The shared human experience of theater and movie making is really going to drastically change by this. But
And I know.
But I do think, on a positive note, I think if we band together and actively, support these things and look upon it as, a social duty that we can get over this, particularly with, independent film. Look, this is a big struggle, and it's not just the pandemic. It's winning the moral struggle in the field of media at the minute, which has been taken over by some very dangerous people,
Yeah. We're a little. I feel a bit at war, and I certainly have had enough war in my life, and I don't like being in another one. Finally,
peace.
Yeah. But
well, thanks, Geraldine. It's great to see you, and Dennis.
Both.
Hopefully in the same room one of these years.
Yeah, it'd be nice someday if we could do that.
Yeah, and we look forward to that. Martin can broker the party after the after party. Should not be a meal delivered to your house. I'm sorry, Martin.
Okay, Terry, I thought we hadn't told you about the after party. That's a clerical mistake, so it is. You're not supposed to know about that.
The place outside Lisburn many years ago, where they did that, they delivered your food under the door.
Well, we don't. Well, we are struggling our way through this pandemic. Some of us, Terry, are going to be at the Soon Wine dinner without the food at midnight in Belfast time. So that we're offering that up. Can I thank Dennis? Good man. Thank you very much. Terence, as always. Garamina Mohiga, thank you very much. Journey, I give you my heart, Journey Hughes. See you soon. Let's get you back to Lyric and let's fill it. Take care. Thank you very much, folks. Garaked Mohiga, thank you.